G'day, welcome to Larrikin Japan. Today I want to have a bit of a talk about my thoughts on how they're going to change the property laws, on how foreigners can buy property in Japan, because it is going to change, and it's going to change pretty soon, I think. Now, how this all came about with the election and all this, they brought up about this Japanese number one and all, a bit like Trump with America being number one. Japan sort of coming in on the same sort of thing, look after the Japanese citizens before looking after foreigners, that type of thing. Anyway, housing came up in it because one place in particular went to Parliament. This foreigner, he bought a block of apartments. Anyway, the people in the apartments were paying 75,000 yen a month rent, so about 750 bucks Australian a month, which is cheap, you know. Anyway, this guy sent them all out letters. He was going to put the rent up to 198,000 yen a month, which is like $2,000. So nearly 3 times the price they were paying. So, you know, they complained about it and they went to the city office and then got onto their local members and it ended up in Parliament and a big stink over it. Anyway, they got onto the fella and told him he couldn't do it and that, so he said, okay, you just leave it as it was. Sent him out letters again. But in the meantime, a lot of people had moved out of the place. They said, we're not paying, you know, $2,000 to rent this place. We can't afford it, you know, so they moved out. Now, I think the whole idea this guy did it, he did it on purpose. He wanted everybody to move out of the apartment building. And then he could do what he wanted with it. So, you know, he could, demolish it and build a hotel or whatever he wanted to do and make more money on it, sort of thing. So I think that's what was going to happen, but he sort of had to put the brakes on that idea. And I don't think he's the first bloke. I think this has happened a fair bit. So they're pushing the prices of rent up and it's hurting Japanese people who are on minimum wages and don't have a lot of money. They can't afford to rent places in places like Tokyo and Osaka and Nagoya and that sort of thing. So it is hurting the ordinary Japanese person. So they're not going to stand for this sort of thing. So I think in time, at the moment, you can buy a place in Japan. You don't need a visa. You don't have to be a resident. You can just buy it from overseas even if you want. And it's no problem. But they're going to put the brakes on this, I reckon. And I would not be surprised if you're going to have to be like a permanent resident or something like that to be able to buy it. They might even stop and say, if you're here on a work visa and that sort of thing, you can't buy a place, I think. This is my idea, what will happen, to try to make it better for people, you know, especially in the cities. In rural areas, I think it's still going to be pretty easy to buy a place if you want to live in it. This is the big thing. So I think you're going to have to tell them when you go to buy a place, what are we going to do? We're going to rent it out, we're going to live in it, or what are we going to do? So this is going to happen. It's all going to come into play and it's going to get pretty strict. Now, there are a lot of sort of guys on YouTube and that who have got companies who help foreigners buy places. There's one guy, he boasts he's got 19 properties and he makes 6 figures a year. And he also helps foreigners buy places. He says he's helped over 120 people buy places. He's often got YouTube videos up on, you know, like an Australian bought a place in Yokohama or American bought 2 places in Tokyo and this sort of stuff. So, you know, they're sort of pushing people in to buy these places. They don't care. They're making money. They're charging people to do the service, to help them out, to find places and help them with the paperwork and all this sort of thing. They're making money off these people. How much they make, I've got no idea. but they would be making a pretty good profit off them. So this is sort of happening. So, you know, if you are thinking, you know, there's a lot of talk about, oh, you know, houses, you can get houses in Japan for 20 grand or 30 grand or free and this sort of stuff, abandoned houses, akiyas, you know. But some of them are not worth a cracker, you know, a good wind and they nearly fall down. People haven't lived in them for 30 or 40 years and they're full of junk, and, you know, you got rats living in there and all this sort of stuff. So you've got to be really careful. Now, if you do buy a place and it is full of rubbish, you have to get rid of all that rubbish. You have to pay. You can't just, it's not like you go to the tip and, okay, drop off a load. Nah, it costs you money to dispose of stuff. Like where I live, if you take it to the clean centre, I think it was the first 500 kilos is free, and then for every 10 kilos after that, you pay 20 yen or something like that. So yeah, it can get really expensive real quick, you know. So you have to be really careful on this sort of thing. And if you buy a place, it's for sure it's going to need renovation. You know, you have to put new bathroom in it, new kitchen, probably fix up the tatami floors and all that. Maybe, you know, paint it or reclad it or whatever you want to do. You know, you could spend quite easy. You can put 100 grand into it, fix one of these places up so it's livable. So now you're up for, you know, close on a couple $100 grand. Then you want to rent it out. Rent in Japan is really cheap. You can rent a house for $1,000 a month. So if you spent 200 grand on a house and you're renting it out for $1,000 a month, it's going to take you 20 years just to get your money back. Now, in Australia, like if you buy a house would cost you, let's say you buy a house and it costs you $500,000. In 10 years, that place could be worth $1 million. Here, if you buy a place worth $500,000, in 10 years, it's worth about $250,000. You've lost half your money. Places here go down in value. They don't go up in value. If you bought a place in Tokyo and that, it might stay pretty relevant because the land price is good. You know, you're not going to lose money, but a lot of places you'll lose money on a house. So, you know, like to get your 200 grand back, it's going to rent it out. It's going to take you 20 years. And then if you try to sell the place, you're going to get peanuts for it. You lost so much money. You know, it's just investing in real estate in Japan is a very dicey business. It is a real dicey business. So I'd be really careful if you are thinking of buying in Japan, what you do and how you go about it. Be very careful who you get to help you, because there are some real slime bags out there and all they want is your money. They don't really care too much about you. There are a lot of so-called experts out there who have got no idea. They'll, you know, if you're going to buy a place, you want to get a builder in to inspect it, an electrician, make sure it's all up to standards before you get in there, you know. You want a professional to give you advice, you know. Be very careful on who you get to help you do things. Anyway, that's about it for today. It's just a bit of a talk about how the laws are going to change. I think they're going to change drastically. I think it's going to be a lot harder to buy a place. If you want to live in the country, in the rural areas, yeah, I think won't be too much problem. They want people to move into the rural areas. The city is a different kettle of fish. They're going to be a lot tougher for people buying properties in the city. Anyway, that's my thoughts. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. I've been here long enough. I sort of got a bit of an idea how it works. Anyway, that's it for today. Till next time, have a good one.